we go. Okay, I'm looking at the chat, so let me know if the camera stops being on the actual subject matter. My favorite needle to use for free motion quilting are the new super universal needles. You can find them at creativefeet.com under the universal needle category because they are a universal needle. And they have a really unique coating on them that makes them really slippery, which I believe they designed for embroidery. But it also helps us with quilting. I cut my batting earlier and I threw it because I was so frustrated. I might have even carried it off. Okay. Do any of you have any specific challenges on free motion? Have you ever tried it? And if so, did any of you find that you had a lot of puckers on your quilt? And that happens from the fact that you're pushing down against the surface of the machine, which is a sticky surface. It's like if you're wearing shorts and you slide across a smooth surface wearing shorts with your skin, your legs will stick. And so that's part of the problem when you do free motion, is that the fabric sticks on the bed of the machine. I am so frustrated. There we go. Okay, so I'm cutting a piece of batting. I prefer the bamboo batting to other types. And the reason I do is because bamboo it doesn't have any of the little kernels that you see when you get cotton batting, and it's very soft. It's a renewable type of batting. It also stretches, so you don't have to worry about it tearing inside of your quilt. So I'm going to use the same kind of fabric that I used on that photograph that you had to stare at forever. And I'm going to tell you, I'm sure you're probably curious as to what fabric this is. It's a Moda fabric. I can pull this back a little further. And it's the Ombre Confetti Metallic. And they're just dreamy. They're really, really nice and soft, so the needle doesn't have any interference when quilting. There was a moment there when I really was going to just give up on this tonight. Bamboo batting is super washable. Janice, it actually shrinks a lot less than any of the others. Oh, this cannot go quiet on me. I may just have to, I don't know what I'm going to do. If you guys can take it, I can take it, I guess. Bamboo batting also has a high level of static cling, so when you put the batting on the fabric, it doesn't really require you safety pin or baste it. I wish I could have a more fluid video for you. So when you're looking at this, there's nothing holding this fabric to the batting. But as I pull up on it, it's like the batting, I have to really pull, and you can see the static cling, how it sticks to the fabric as much as a spray would, so you don't have to use any sprays. If you feel insecure and you just have to have some type of basting, then I highly recommend our liquid based. It's a water soluble stabilizer in the bottle, and you can just pull back the fabric and do little dots of the liquid base and then slide your fingers across it and then lay your fabric down, and that will hold until it's washed. It's so weird. I'm totally frozen on my computer. But thank God I'm not on the phone. I don't know. Maybe my computer just can't take it today. See if I can't make sure that I'm not missing any of the chat. So this is just a challenge. I wasn't going to use the same fabric on the bottom, but I don't want to make you wait while I find another fabric. And I had plenty of time, if the equipment didn't fail me, to get all of this done. So here I have the fabrics layered, and what I was going to show you is how I do kind of a graffiti style quilting. Make sure the fabric is flat before you begin. The only way to get a pucker with the Octi-Hoops is if the pucker is already there before you begin. And the Octi-Hoops come as a set of 3. Sorry, I had everything. Hold on one sec. They come with stabilizers in addition to embroidery, and you only need the stabilizers if you're going to do embroidery with it. For quilting, we're going to use 2 frames at the same time. I prefer to use the smallest on top and the middle one on the bottom. And you can lower your machine so that it's flat, or use it up, as you'll see me doing here. The size of the hoop that you use is determined by the size of your hand. So if your hand, this is going to snap. I thought I was going to love this tripod. Here we go. So if your hand is fitting within that opening, that's a good size for you. If your hand is much smaller than the diameter, that wouldn't be a good hoop to use on top. Because when you work with the Octi-Hoops, you drop this little handle into the frame and you actually draw. And when you draw, you don't move your whole arm, you only move your fingers. So a lot of people are nervous to use these. And I think it comes from, whoa, so sorry. I'm probably going to delete this video after it's filmed. Okay. And the number one reason to be nervous to use these is that you are just unfamiliar with them. Anything we're unfamiliar with, our brain just kind of resists. So the best thing to do is to walk around with these around the house before you go to use them. Take them to the kitchen and take one hand and bring the frame together and swing it around, and grab another corner and bring it in and swing it around. And what this does is it trains your brain that really all you're doing is bringing one frame into the corner of the other, and that makes them move simultaneously, because without any clamps or screws that you would normally have on other hoops, the only way to get these to move together is to bring one corner together. And then your other hand is going to draw with this writing instrument like tool, and I call them handles. And you can get replacement handles if you want to, if you're afraid you're going to lose them. But most of the time, people that lose them are the ones that put them somewhere safe and they can't remember where they put them. So when you work with these, you're gonna rest your hand on the bottom frame, but you won't be able to see it because it's going to be beneath the actual quilt. and the top frame is going to be the only thing you actually see. And then your non-dominant hand holds the corner together and your dominant hand writes. And that is the basics of using the Octi-Hoops. There's really no major trick to it. And then if you have the ability to draw, you can write directly with the Octi-Hoops, which is what I did when I quilted before and wrote, "I love to quilt." Or you can take and you can trace beforehand and write what you want to actually write. And so before I just wrote quilt, and I did a kind of a graffiti style Q like that. And inside I did a heart for the circle. Notice my hand positioning as I write is actually down. It's exactly the same muscle memory that you will be using when you actually start the quilting process. Your hand will be down. If all of these things are connecting with one another, it makes it easier to actually quilt this. So if you like that, that's what I'm going to quilt. And you could use the friction pen, which is what I used. It's an iron erasable pen. And see, I have to thread the machine. I'm going to go ahead and use a thread that I highly recommend, and that is the Invisifill thread. Oh God. And it comes in small spools and large spools, and this is the equivalent of 7.5 spools of cotton quilting thread. This is the equivalent of a king spool of thread. So it goes a long way. That means that one bobbin of this is the equivalent of winding like 70 bobbins of cotton quilting thread. So if you like to quilt and you don't like changing your bobbin, then you'll love knowing that that bobbin is going to last and last and last. All right, so let's make sure I've got the right bobbin in there, because I don't want you thinking I did a bad job just because I had lime green in there. I could do that if you guys wanted. There we go. I recommend also that you go lighter on your thread color when you're learning how to actually quilt. So you'll start with a thread color that's lighter than your fabric, and you'll like it more. I can't get this bobbin to come off. Come on, Claire. I'm just gonna go with it. I'm gonna do the lime green. I recently just did the studio all over, and so some things are not where they're normally. Wonder how I can get the chat to show up here so I can see you guys. There's the chat. What machine do I have, Linda? This is a Baby Lock Crescendo sewing machine, and it is not an embroidery and sewing machine. It's the Jungle machine, because I paint all of my sewing machines. And I do have a Baby Lock embroidery machine. I have the, what's it called? The Baby Lock. Oh, it was the top one. It just came out with a new one. This is one of the reasons I absolutely love this machine, is that you push this button and it threads your needle for you. So if you have vision issues, it's lovely for that. And the directions for quilting are to select your straight stitch, and I prefer the center needle position stitch pattern, and that's pretty much it. Then we're going to not really worry about your thread tension, and remove the presser foot to put on our invisible free motion foot. And that's me making a joke, because one of the nice things about the Octi-Hoops is that you don't have to use a foot at all. So for those of you who forgot, this one's going to go underneath, this one's going to go on top, bring the corner together. That moves the hoops together, but we're not going to use our hands and push down like this. It's the destiny. Yes, thank you. And yes, bamboo batting is washable and it's more sustainable than any of the others, other than I would say that polyester probably will last longer than bamboo, but you don't have to worry about it disintegrating like you do with some of the natural battings. And I don't know if you know that your natural batting rots. It does, because it is a living organism that is deceased, and anything that is alive and dies starts to do what? Decompose. Not very nice conversation, but it's reality. So I'm now set up, and what I'm going to do is I'll do the center of the heart first, and I'm doing this like looking through the phone. Bring your bobbin thread up, and if you're wanting to win a contest, you would leave your thread really long, and after you have quilted, take the two ends of the thread through a hand sewing needle, bring it through the middle of the batting, and that would make it not visible on the outside. That's me moving my chair. Hope it wasn't obnoxious. Here we go. So once again, hand on the handle. Let me see if I can pull back a little so you can see more of my posture. My hands are very light. It's a really light touch. There's no need to ever push down from above. You want to make sure also that when you're resting your arm, that your arm is actually resting on the body of the machine, not on the quilt. Because if your arm is resting on the quilt, well, you can't move it. And then you're not used to resting with your arms laying down on top of your machine if you've done free motion before. So it does take a little bit of practice to learn to relax instead of stressing out with your shoulders raised. And now we're going to go ahead and I'm just going to trace over that line, and it is kind of like tracing. Now the speed that you run your machine and the speed that you move the hoop is what determines the stitch length. Stitch length does not exist without a foot. So now I just did that, and we can hop over, because I can always cut that thread afterward, which is what I did on this polka dot quilt that I'll show you after I'm done sewing. I also quilt better when I'm not contorted around this camera, tripod, and light setup, which I wouldn't have had if my equipment worked properly. It's okay to go slow. You see how slow I'm running the machine? A lot of people believe that they have to go quickly with the machine. So I also like sometimes to go back over where I already have been and just go maybe 2 or 3 times around. But for this purpose, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to show you how you can also do circles, which are also known as pebbles. And all a circle is, or all a pebble is a circle. I can't really see that. Sorry about that. There we go. So rather than just going over to the word quilt, I wanted to show you how you could also kind of draw around to create nice fill-in designs using this. Instead of pushing down and making a circle with both hands down and trying to move your whole body in a circular motion, that is much more challenging than just moving your fingers in a circular motion. And it makes quilting smaller designs much easier. So you can do a really tiny circle, also known as a pebble, or really large ones. And we'll go ahead and I'll do a little echo quilting and come around and continue with the design. No stitch regulator is necessary when working with the Octi-Hoops. Your brain becomes a stitch regulator. And I know that sounds a little bit weird. However, if you can think about driving a car, and don't you think that driving a car is more difficult than quilting? if you don't, think about all the people on the road that are coming at you and the rules of the road, and you still have a foot control and you still have a speed limit that you're supposed to follow. And I really am enjoying this. This is taking a lot of the stress away from getting ready to film. I never thought I'd say that quilting was a stress release, because it used to really stress me out to try to get my stitches all the same before I created the Octi-Hoops. And one of the reasons I created them was because people were injuring their necks trying to look through and around the presser foot that you can see is not there. And notice that I just keep sliding the frames around on the surface. So this is loose. There's nothing really holding these together. The bottom frame is also able to move all around by you just choose where you want to go and you proceed. I'm like not able to see at all what I'm doing, you guys. So if I'm doing not as good as you think I should, know that it has a lot to do with the fact I'm tipping my head to one side and around the contraption that's holding this camera in place. So now I'm going to go around here. A lot of people don't start quilting because they believe there's all these rules that you have to follow. And rules do make or add to your stress level. This is supposed to be fun. You want to try not to think of it as being that important. If you start with a project that you intend to use for something that isn't very stress-ridden, like for instance, I could turn this project that I'm making here into a bag that holds dog bones. Now, it's not a very important quilt at all, is it? So we can also go across and create like a swirling pattern. This is supposed to be groovy when we're done. This is graffiti writing, something that I used to do when I was in middle school. Come around. And after I finish going around the word quilt, I'll go ahead and take a look at the questions and see if you have any. Let's see. So another pebble. I can also do some of the paisley designs. Sliding the bottom frame up with my finger that's beneath or on top, and then this just drops in, and now we have this whole area to quilt. So instead of looking at your entire quilt as this giant thing that you have to accomplish, it breaks it down into little segments. And if any of you have the other hoops that you push down and move across, you know that you're also stopping and repositioning and stopping and repositioning. So it's not attached to the hoop. Nothing is attached to anything. And yet once you engage that corner, everything becomes connected to one another, and you have freedom of movement, and so much freedom that you can also take away your other hand and rest. And now I'm going to quilt one-handed. This is something that is super exciting for any of you that know of anyone that maybe suffered a stroke. You can actually quilt and do free motion embroidery without needing to use both hands. Sometimes as I'm quilting, I just stop holding on with my other hand because I'm just so relaxed as I'm going. So this is echo quilting. And I was thinking about doing like a sew-along once a week where I don't really teach so much as I just kind of show you what you can do and blow you guys away kind of thing. I don't know what you guys think of that. If you can leave something in the comment, let me know. So this would be stippling, sliding the frame where you want to go. Let's see. You can also, because you have a handle in your hand that feels like a pin, you can actually write your name. Or you can do an entire quilt with geometric shapes. If you can draw a straight line on a piece of paper, you can certainly do that on a quilt. And slide down. let's see what else. If you want to see a feather, you come down. And that's the center of the feather. And then you come back over. You can also leave a gap in between, anything that you want. It's just like doodling. Quilting is similar to doodling and also similar to tracing. So if you already have a design on the fabric, it is like tracing. I feel so bad I didn't get to share this with anyone on Facebook. But I'm going to go live again. Tomorrow I'm going to be discussing with the company that I spent money on today and find out, you know, what is going on and why I couldn't go live today using that platform. And I will let you guys know if I do go live again, and that one will be better than this one. So this is free motion quilting, and it is super fun. If you're making a quilt just for yourself, there's no reason you can't just do a little tack and consider that done. Use the scissors to cut if your sewing machine has those, and then you can just slide to another area. But I'm going to talk a little bit about something that I have over here. Let's see here. Try not to move you too quick. This is the studio. This is some inking that I did recently. So if you haven't seen the inking video, you might want to pick that up. These are done with the inks that you can find at creativefeet.com. And what I did was made a backing fabric and that's the binding fabric that will be very cohesive with my Babbling Brook project that I am teaching. This is another one of the sewing machines that I've painted, and it has the sequins and ribbon foot attached to it right now. This is as far as this cord will go. You can see the presser foot has a tube that holds the yarn in place, and this is a really fun knobby yarn. You can see how thick it is. You're able to do a wide variety of different types of yarns, ribbons, sequins, and this is the quilt that I want to show you. So I'm going to try to move my chair without shaking you guys around too much. Can't pause it. Hold on. Come with me, chair. There we go. Here we go. That works. This is a quilt that I made for a modern quilt show that I went to. And basically I used the needle turn applique technique, and this was done by machine, not by hand. And all of these polka dots, I went around every one of them. And you can see how that seems like it would take forever, and it was very relaxing. I actually watched a movie while I did it, and by the time the movie was over, I was done with all of those polka dots, over 200 polka dots. And I had pre-traced this design, and this is one of my quilt patterns that I'll be releasing inside of the classroom, Create with Clare Rowley. This is a needle turn technique that I created years ago using a fusible, use like freezer paper to form it, and then you glue it down with the liquid-based glue, and then you just stitch around with the satin edge foot. And then, of course, this is the Babbling Brook, and this is what I made that binding and backing fabric for. You can see this did not go well at all with that, and that certainly did not go well with that, so that's why I was inspired to do that. So I hope that I haven't made you all nauseous, and I'm contending with this being angled up with my chair. So I'm probably going to just take some time to look at your comments, and know that the giveaway is give me about a week to count, and you need to make a comment in the comments, and here we go. Let's see what else. be a subscribed member of my YouTube channel. And if you haven't yet signed up for our newsletter list at creativefeet.com, do that. And that will qualify you to be one of the participants in the giveaway of a $50 mystery box full of sewing and quilting related items. And so I'm going to flip it around and take some questions. And you can kind of look at that. We are at 37 minutes. And let's see. Oh, wow. Linda doesn't think I've changed anything in years. Thank you so much. I cut about 7 inches off of my hair recently, and so my head's a lot lighter. Let's see. I was freezing. I hope the freezing stopped, Judy. So do any of you have any questions about free motion? And know that I will be doing more videos. Hello, Yamaki from France. I hope I'm not destroying your name. Let's see. Isn't it nice that we all get to talk to each other from all these different places? Just to recap, also this is a Moda fabric, and these are the Octi-Hoops, and they work on all machines because they actually don't attach to a sewing machine. And you get 3 of these octagon shaped hoops in the kit. I'm the inventor of these hoops, and it makes it so that you can draw like you see here. So let's see. So Karina, do you want me to sew a little more? I have no problem in just like sewing a little bit more if any of you want me to. I'll go for another 10 minutes of stitching. Actually, Rebecca, the reason that you're feeling that way, I'm gonna secure the phone so I can have my hands, so bear with me because it might be a bumpy ride while I put it back in the clamp. There we go. All right. So Rebecca was saying how she thinks her machine is too small because the hoops fall off, and they will fall off if you, especially if you push down. So you're not supposed to push down on the hoops. And as you progress across, you then just slide the hoops over and continue. So you're not supposed to ride out into the outer perimeter, and your needle is, you know, limited to where you can be anyway. So once you reach this area, after you get the hang of holding these 2 frames together, your brain will like have you grab and you become like an extension of the table rather than pushing down. So it's that pushing down that makes your hoops snap off the top. And to give you an idea, I'm going to take the free arm. I'm going to take this off. The proof is in the free arm only. Okay. So if you're just finding me, welcome to my channel. I'll be going live a lot more. I used to travel a lot doing shows, and I am 56 years old now and starting to want to stay home more. So I've created a classroom, an online classroom, so I can still be available to you guys. It's called Create with Clare Rowley, and it is a network built inside of a platform called the Mighty Networks. So if you go to create.clarerowley.com, so there's no www in front of it, just create.clarerowley.com, and know that my name is spelt different. It is underneath the video. So right where this description is, you should see Clare Rowley and how it's spelled. So create.clarerowley.com, and I will add links to this video if I don't feel it's too terrible to add to the permanent feed on my YouTube channel. So this is the free arm only, and no one's got, well, maybe a toy machine would be smaller, and you can actually quilt with just that. So I'm going to take these once again. 1 hoop goes underneath. And you want to make sure you don't push down. All other hoop systems and all other methods of free motion require you become a presser foot and hold the fabric down. So this is a giant foot, eliminating the need for the smaller foot, which is what your mind may not be noticing is missing from this. I'm going to go ahead and do some more graffiti quilting within this area here. And this is I'm going to move this so you can see better. This is how it works. You rest your hand on the frame beneath it, and you make sure that your arm is not resting on top of the quilt, but on the actual sewing machine. And then your hand goes here, and you draw. But nothing will happen. It won't move at all unless this hand holds the two frames together. So you can hold them together by bringing your hand underneath, and you see how I can actually lift the frame up. So this is what we're going for. We're going for no downward pressure at all, keeping the frames uplifted. Oh, and they are uplifting. These are the most fun you can have with a sewing machine. I don't know. My creative feet are pretty fun too. So here we go. I got this little light attached to this thing. Is that better? That's kind of nice. Get it out of my eyes. Oh, I can see better. And what you're not able to see because of the camera issues today is that my elbows are down on the table. So if any of you've ever quilted before, you know that your elbows were up on and had to remain up and lifted off the table, because otherwise you can't move a hoop and you couldn't move the fabric in a circle. But remember, we're just moving our hoop with fingers, which makes small designs so easy. So you can just keep going. And these are what you call pebbles, and it's just a circle. So if you think that you could take a pen in your hand and write a circle, this is true muscle memory. All other methods of free motion don't really give you true muscle memory practice. In other words, if you were to practice making circles with a pen, with any other method, you have to put the pen down afterward and then take your hands and spread them apart and push down, and now you're not doing at all what that muscle memory was supposed to teach you. With this, you are able to. And note that I only have a free arm underneath here. I don't have a full sewing machine. And so this is the position that my hand went into for any of you that have a little sewing machine. So even if you have like a toy machine and you have young children in your life, or you're the young one with that little machine, you can actually quilt. Of course, you know, the bigger the quilt, the more challenging it is on a sewing machine that's smaller, but I've got tricks for that too, which I will be covering as we go really deep into free motion on my channel and inside of my new school, create.clarerowley.com. So there I just created a flower. See how easy that was? And now, once again, sliding the hoop over, sliding this hoop over. Now I have this area to fill in. So it kind of breaks a quilt down into smaller sections. Your brain likes to think about less at a time. So this is really nice, and that you can do that and just section it off and do a little bit at a time. You don't have to even map out your entire quilt before you begin. So there you see how I just traced right over the shapes that I already had there. We're at 46 minutes. And feel free to ask questions, as I am able to see your comments as I'm sewing periodically as they pop up. If you're wondering about what these are, this is a hoop kit that I created called the Octi-Hoops. And they work on all machines. Just go like this. Once again, one hand is beneath and holding, or one hoop is beneath and the other hoop is on top, and they are not connected in any way. The reason I designed an octagon shape is so that they would engage enough area of connection when bringing one corner together with the other. gives it enough connection to where they become locked to each other, and then they move as one without clamps or screws like you have on all other hoop systems where there's more than one frame being used at a time. So if you have a frame and it's just sitting on top and you have handles, you're pushing down against the body of the machine, and that causes, as you push down and it sticks more, the stitches get shorter, and then when your fingers slide, then the stitches get longer. So if you were blaming yourself for your stitch length not being consistent, it is just a scientific fact that when you push down against a sticky, smooth surface like a sewing machine, there is resistance, and the fabric on top has a bias that stretches, and that causes it to distort and stretch out of shape, where the Octi-Hoops eliminate any chance of that because there's nothing holding or pushing down against the fabric. So they are just laying there loose, and this is just loose, and then yeah, it's just like magic. For me, this is one of my favorite things to do when I just need to decompress from the day. It's kind of like doodling when I used to doodle in school. I shouldn't admit that. So this is our invisible free motion foot. It's really not though. It's just a giant foot, and this handle drops in and actually holds on to the frame, so you don't have to use muscles in your hand to hold the handle into the hole. So everything I did so that you would not injure your body while working with the Octi-Hoops. Do any of you have any questions? I'm not seeing any comments coming across the screen, so in a little bit I'll look and review again. And I'm just randomly choosing where I place my circles. Sorry about the bouncing that the phone is doing. Small, and then medium, and then just really relaxing with it. The secret to making your pebbles look good is that they all connect with one another, like in the V right there. So that one would look better if it got bigger than these two right here. So I will make it bigger. And then I don't really have a nice V yet, so I'm going to come around here and do another smaller one. And now I have kind of a V. If the V has a gap, I then make another little circle in there, and nobody can tell that this wasn't a pattern. And it is just very fluid. You can leave spots where there are no pebbles at all if you like, to create a really neat flowing look coming out from somewhere. So, and you kind of see that if I take this off for a second. So you can see how it's just kind of coming out from the side. And we could combine this with echo quilting and with feathers, because this is graffiti. We are just doodling and just doing whatever we feel like. You see, I'm warmed up. That's another thing I recommend you do. I recommend you have a fabric to practice on before you actually start on your project, made of the same fabric, so that your hands become more nimble. So as I mentioned before, Jean, to determine which hoop goes on top, you want your hand to be able to fit inside of the hoop. So if I tried to use this one on top, it's too big for my hand. And what that means, bear with me as I'm working with really not the best equipment right now, on camera equipment. So what we're doing, and I should probably take and know that for any of you who came in after, I've been sewing with just the free arm on the machine. So you do not have to have a large table in order to do this. But it does help me show you this if I put that back on. I did better without the body of the machine put together. And here's a little bit of the paisley type design and a little feather combination. So I'm going to put this back on. And if you don't know about me, I paint all of my sewing machines. There are videos where there's a tour of this machine. This is what I call my jungle machine. So if you're wondering why the machine looks like this, it's because I just sewed for 36 years now, and I think sewing machines should have more color, be more fun. And there's a little hippo who peeks out at you a lot on the videos when you watch some of my pre-recorded ones. And this is a permanent painting process. I do have a video on how to paint your sewing machine available at creativefeet.com as well, should you wanna. All right, so this is the principles behind it for those of you who walked up to my booth. No, those of you who came into the video late, you're really not late. So here we have these two frames locked together. We have 3 actually that come in the kit. So just think of the other one as free. So we wanted to make sure there was one for every size hand for the quilting process, but you can also use these for embroidery like you cannot even imagine. So everything you can do with an embroidery machine, you can do with this. And also you can quilt your own quilts instead of sending them out to other people. So these frames all lock together by the fact that they're all the same shape. An octagon is the same shape or same angle. So if I were to take out the middle one, the small one and the large one will also connect with one another. And I do have some customers who say that they like to slide the hoop around inside of the bigger frame. My brain does not work that way. So I prefer to use the middle and the smaller one on top. And they're not familiar to you until they are. So the best thing to do is to, before you ever try sewing with them, to just start touching them and carry them around. Go into the kitchen with them. Look at them, feel them, because then they'll become a familiar thing in your sewing room. Once they're familiar to you, they're not as scary. That's how our brain works. And here we go. Hope I'm saying everything I wanted to say. You can also change colors of thread and really create some incredible artwork on your quilts. So one frame goes underneath, the other on top. This is the only hoop system for quilting that does that, where you have a hoop on the bottom to prevent the back of your quilt from getting pinched. And I'm sure there's at least one of you wondering what the back looks like. And here's the back. I'm not ever afraid to show the back of my quilt because I have never been able to create a pucker with the Octi-Hoops. No matter how hard I tried to make the fabric get messed up, it just doesn't get messed up. So that's the back. This is the top. Let's see. The hoops, we have 2 different options now for purchasing the hoop kit. For those of you who do not need a DVD, and I suppose most of you who are on here don't need a DVD, you'll get online support through the Create with Clare Rowley school and also on YouTube. And I continue to show more and more videos on this project, on this product, because it's just so versatile. So we have an option where you don't get a video with the Octi-Hoops, and it sells for $79 currently on our website. And that's for the whole kit. So if you have an embroidery machine, you know how much just one hoop can cost you. There's no need as a stitch regulator. There's no such thing as stitch length. Oh, this entire time my feed dogs have been up and feeding. And I sewed a good portion of this with just a free arm, so the size of the body of the machine does not matter. I did engineer these so that you could do free motion embroidery using a featherweight sewing machine, and I do have a featherweight and plan to do some videos using just the featherweight machine also. How fast you run the machine is entirely up to you. I just went too fast and now I have 2 loops. So go as slow as your eyesight wants you to. When you're seeing somebody run a long arm machine and they run the machine fast and they're kind of, you know, doing swooping designs, you know, they've got a lot of practice. A lot of times the beginners will put their machine at full speed, and I recommend that you, even when you're experienced, have your speed control dropped by about 20% at least. You might want to go as much as 30% of your speed, but don't go all the way down to the slowest, because then you'll tend to get large stitches and you're more likely to break a needle that way. Oh, speaking of broken needles, never have your sewing machine set to stop with the needle down. If you do, you're more likely to break a needle because your hand's moving and the needle is stopping, trying to stop down. It's also kind of hard on the actual quilt as you're moving it around with the needle down, and you can see how the hole would get larger, and also that needle is being bent. So have your needle always stop up with no presser foot in your way. You can see where you're going to start, so you don't even really feel the need to lower your sewing machine needle. There's really nothing simpler or easier than using the Octi-Hoops for free motion. Once you get past the oddity of it and the fact that they're not round or square or rectangular like you're used to seeing hoops, and once you stop thinking that just because I invented it is why I'm this good at it. Because when I first started using these hoops, I did not know what I was doing, and I was pushing down just like most of you will do the first few times you use them. You'll tend to push down too hard on them. And I'm really not pushing down at all. Once again, one-handed sewing is also possible. And so all I'm doing, and I'm not using my dominant hand, by the way, for some reason, even though I can't write with a pen with my left hand, I can quilt left-handed really, actually pretty well. And we have a lot of people that have found the same thing to be true. Now what you can't see me doing is I'm actually resting my head, I'm resting my head on my dominant hand. So this is the position that I'm quilting in, just resting my body and quilting with just one hand, with my elbows down on the table. And that's how you should be doing it too. I think we're going to end this video because I'm getting tired and hungry. And let's see here. I'll look for more, see if any of you have any more questions. No more questions. And so there will be a giveaway. And if you're on you have to subscribe to creativefeet.com. Those of you who watched the last live premiere where we had the giveaway. I'll move you slow. The giveaway was awarded today, and it took a while because we did have the passing of Kay Wood, and I was emotionally affected by it more than I anticipated. For those of you who don't know who Kay Wood is or who she was the host of Kay's Quilting Friends and a dear friend of mine. And so she passed away on the 20th of July, and it took me a little while to get over that. And also we were working on a new set and bringing in the serger, because I'm going to be teaching you guys how to work with knits as well. And not always are you going to need a serger. I'm going to show you how to use the serger, and then I'm going to show you how to do it with my satin edge foot. That foot's also known as the magic foot. And it's customers like you that named it that. So I think I'm gonna end this. If there's anything else new, just tomorrow, hopefully, I'll have 4 cameras all doing different things, and it'll be a lot more fun. If you're on our newsletter list, I'll let you know when I go live, and I'm just going to have to do something different than this tomorrow. Won't that be a shame? Thanks for watching. I love y'all. And it would be nice if I could end it real easy, but I'm still struggling here. Let's see. So one last chance. Anybody have any questions? Whoa, sorry. This is the gadget that I was using. It clamps on to the machine, and it has this light on it, which is really neat for vlogging, and I do plan on doing more vlogging, but normally I just kind of stand still with it. And then we have this camera here, and then we have that camera there, and I had another one set up, and all of them failed because of the application and my experience. Thank you, Janice. I love you guys so much. You have no idea. 36 years of serving you guys. And if any of you did a super chat and gave me a gift, thank you so much. Definitely helps to pay for all of the equipment and supplies and my time and the time of our workers. And okay. Sorry for bouncing you around. This time for real, I'm saying goodbye. Mwah. Love you all. Bye. Oh gosh. I thought I knew where to push. Where is it?